again. It's the Michigan couple. I'm the Michigan wife.
And I'm the back to being depressed Michigan husband.
Yeah, it was a very different game from last week against Michigan State. This was the 9th game of 2024, and it was Michigan versus Oregon. We have some one fine-looking duck there, and then a duck crossing sign, which is actually from Oregon. So that seemed apropos to talk about this game because it definitely was a duck crossing, a duck running over, a duck passing, a duck doing everything.
It was a duck stomping on your face.
It was a duckorama. You went to the game. What were the Oregon fans like? What was the atmosphere like? What were your impressions from being in the stand?
Oh, it was great. And Oregon fans traveled fairly well. Not as well as USC. Sorry, Oregon. Or Texas. But they traveled well. They were nice. I like their green better than Michigan State's green. I like their fans better than Michigan State's fans. But, no, it was good. The atmosphere was great. The students were fired up. Everybody was fired up. And there was, cautious optimism, I guess, going into the game. I don't think anyone expected us to run away with it or maybe even to really beat them.
Yeah.
Talk at tailgates and, pregame festivities was more let's be competitive and see what happens. And for a little while, it looked like we actually did that at points and fits and starts during the game. And other times it looked like we still didn't know what we were doing and maybe we should be coaching high school football. I'm not sure.
Well, that's the frustrating thing about this game is that, in my opinion, and maybe in yours too, I don't think that this was a case of we went in there and we really had no shot against this team, which was just, it is the number one team in the country, but you're right. It would have been nice to be competitive and see what happens, but we didn't get the first part of that done, mostly, I think, due to the coaching, because we have a competitive team. And even with all of the confusion that we've seemingly had at quarterback this year, Davis Warren played well. He played well, but there were some major mistakes, and also I think the coaching did us in. And that's what's frustrating is I didn't feel like we were 100 slots worse than Oregon or something like that. Like, I didn't feel like they were all that much. They were better. They're very good. Don't get me wrong. They deserve to be the number one team in the country. But you could see, watching the game back, you could see parts where Michigan could have won this game, could have at least been a lot closer. And some very unfortunate things happened. And really, I don't put much of it on the players themselves. It's the way that this team is being coached and some of the decisions that have been made that make me really mad. At any rate, the final score ended up 38-17. Oregon, the number one team in the country, wins in Michigan Stadium and continues to roll on in their unbeaten season. So let's talk about the offense. This is how I felt about the Oregon offense, a duck flying high, and this is how I felt about the Michigan offense most of the time. Although I did think that Davis Warren played well, but our running game seemed to be stuck in the mud.
We had opportunities throughout the game, but our coaching and our plan does not set us up to be successful early. And Michigan is just not good enough to come from behind or overcome mistakes, whether they're turnovers or penalties like we've talked about in the past. The first 6 drives of the game on Michigan's offense, 1 went for over 30 yards and 1 went for a touchdown. The first play on all 6 of those drives netted 1 yard. So when you open drives, losing yards or not gaining any yards, it's a rough start. And it's mind-boggling that we continue to do the same things over and over and over. How do you come out of the locker room to start a game against the number one team in the country that flat? I was actually making some jokes in the stands to my friends when they remarked, "Hey, we have 34 yards of offense in the first quarter." And as sad as it seems, that's double what we had against Michigan State. So I was still trying to be optimistic. I was like, "Hey, that's twice as much as we had against Michigan State. We're in this."
And Oregon is impressive, and their quarterback is super impressive. Gabriel, I think his name is.
Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel, very, very impressive. And what was really great about Oregon as a team and about Gabriel personally that I witnessed was that he shrugs off things that really messes Michigan up. So, when things go wrong for Oregon, Gabriel regroups, shrugs off the thing, and just keeps the offense rolling. They had an amazing one-handed catch in the end zone for a touchdown by Evan Stewart, and it got called back because there was an illegal man downfield or something like that. And instead of just collapsing or looking confused, or Gabriel's like, all right, he regroups, and he just keeps the offense rolling. You think about even that drive where they're starting, I think, from their own 6. Michigan's celebrating because it was a great punt, and we had them in very tricky situation. And Gabriel's like, all right, and he takes the team down the field. He never seemed to look worried. He never seemed to panic. He is a remarkable quarterback, but also the way that he leads the team, even in the face of things that aren't going right in that moment, he shrugs it off. And that's what you need to do when you're going to be an exceptional college football player.
Well, their offense saw receivers breaking open 3, 4, 5, 7 yards from the nearest defender. You're looking around, and it's like, where are the defenders? And we'll talk about the defense, I guess, in a minute. When you compare that to our offense, it seemed as if our receivers, at least in the first half, had Oregon defensive backs stuck on them with Velcro because there was no separation. And I think to your point on Dylan Gabriel, you have the confidence to do that and drive your team down the field because your coach is calling various plays that puts you and your athletes in position to succeed. There was somebody on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, maybe it was Scott Bell, who charted what we did after every first down incompletion, and it's run right back up the middle. There's no creativity in our offense.
Well, that's the thing another thing that had me upset after last week, where we talked about how great it was that finally Kirk Campbell had some offensive creativity that we've been begging for all season. We went right back to predictability and boredom. I'm sorry. You cannot put Alex Orji in the game repeatedly if you do not have a game plan for him and you are just going to run him up the middle every single time. That's what it seemed they were doing. And to me, Alex Orji didn't really add anything in this game. Not his fault. Not the fault of Alex Orji. The fault of the coaching staff, particularly the offensive coordinator, for not having a game plan for Alex Orji. Putting him in and having him run up the middle is not going to succeed, certainly against a team like Oregon or really anybody else. And it's baffling to come off a game like MSU where they had creativity, where they're doing different things, and now it feels like we went 4 games backwards.
Well, the offense actually looked pretty good when they came out of the second half. The defense got a stop. The offense scores. Looks like we're having some momentum. Then we had some defensive errors, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, some special team errors. But speaking just about the creativity, the last drive, Michigan's driving down the field, and we get down there, it's 70-play drive, 11 plays, 70 yards. It's 4th and 5 at the Oregon 10. We can either get a touchdown or we can get a first down. Warren's thrown some beautiful passes to Peyton O'Leary and Tyler Morris for those touchdowns. Fit the ball in beautifully. So what do? We decide to get creative for one of the first times all game. And we have to outsmart ourselves, and we have to be the smartest guy in the stadium, I guess, because we have a reverse to Samaj Morgan, who I love, who then has the throwback, almost like the Philly, the throwback to the quarterback, to Alex Orji. Well, one, Samaj is not Donovan Edwards.
And doesn't have Donovan Edwards' experience either.
And why? You 11 play, 70-yard drive.
Yeah.
Let your quarterback run the offense.
Yeah.
Why do we have to out-trick ourselves? I mean, the ball was well defended, but the ball was nowhere even close to being caught. I mean, Travis Kelce wasn't catching that crap.
Well, this announcing crew, I do like. We've seen them several times already this year. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Jenny Dell. And Gary Danielson said two things that I think really sum up the different sides of this game. Early on, he said that it seems like Oregon has 7 receivers out there at all time, and it sure does. The quarterback seemingly has endless opportunities to throw to the receivers. It's just an amazing offense.
To be fair, we didn't have our top 2 cornerbacks, so that contributed, but they were still running all over the field, open all the time, and he could have thrown to any receiver he wanted whenever he wanted to.
Right, so Danielson said that about the Oregon receivers, and then he said about that trick play and after it didn't work and all that, he said, you know what, I feel that is kind of unfortunate because Davis Warren earned the chance to throw that ball and to get that touchdown. He led that team down the field. He actually had some beautiful throws in this game. One to Tyler Morris, several to Loveland. He was, as you mentioned, he was throwing well overall, and he didn't have an interception, correct? He did not have an interception.
No, he fumbled early in the first quarter, but he fell on it himself. But I would have rather run up the middle and got stuffed for 2 yards than do that baloney.
It just didn't. I think you hit it on the head when you said it almost tried to seem like we were trying to be the smartest group in the room.
Of course, if it works, then how brilliant of a call it was. But it was, hindsight's 20/20. It was ridiculous.
Well, we'll talk about this more, of course, when we get to the coaching section. But it does seem like there are a group of people trying to learn how to be top tier college football coaches and just kind of trying things out. And that's not what you should be doing at Michigan. Try your things out at other schools and then come to Michigan when you've got your things tried out. But anyway, all right, anything else you want to say about the offense before we go to defense?
The offensive line, I'm just not sure what was going on. We have gone from run the ball, and that's all we could do when we couldn't throw a pass earlier in the year.
Right.
And everybody knows we're going to run, to all of a sudden now, we're going to run, or hey, maybe we'll pass because we have Davis Warren.
Yeah.
But we still get stuff for a loss or no gain. It's just, what's going on?
Yeah, the running game is abysmal.
Has the offensive line regressed? I love Grant Newsome, but hey, somebody needs to get their footwork right, get their hand placement right. Miles Hinton said that today, I think, on Twitter. If we're going back to the basics, and what's this, game 9, you said? Mm-hmm. Game 9, and we're talking about footwork and hand placement on the offensive line? Where are the days of the Joe Moore Award? Did we lose everything we've been taught?
Well, it just seems this season is so weird because we had 290 rushing yards versus USC, and we had 105 versus Oregon. And before someone says, well, Oregon's the number 1 team in the country, we did not have that many more against Michigan State last week.
Oregon's not highly ranked against the run.
Yeah. All right, let's go to defense.
Mind-boggling.
Let's go to defense. Defense. I chose a whistle for this just because I think overall the defense did play well. As you pointed out earlier, dear, we were without Will Johnson. And who was the other person we were without?
Jair
Hill. So we were up against it, of course, but the defense played well. It was just penalties and playing the number 1 team in the country, which, we've already talked about all the ways their offense is amazing. But the penalties drive you nuts.
No joke. Coach, hello, Coach. Why aren't the players prepared to play? Our athletes are just as good as theirs are. Why are we? It's 9 games in. Why are we having alignment and pre-snap communication issues?
Yeah, it's inexcusable. Also, shout out to Amir Hall. You told me his first name is Amir. Do I have that right?
I believe so.
Okay. Shout out to Amir Hall because you had amazing coverage on the receiver for Oregon's first touchdown. And as Nessler and Danielson pointed out when we came back from commercial, that was not a touchdown. It seemingly was an incredible Justin Jefferson-like catch, except that it was not a catch. And so...
Don't get me started. Makes me want to go back and talk about the Big Ten vendetta against Michigan and conspiracy theorists and all that crap that I don't necessarily believe in. But how do you miss that in 2024 with our technology?
Yeah.
They replay every scoring drive. What in the heck?
Yeah. And so shout out, because Amir, you had amazing coverage. Not that you're listening to this, but if you are, you had amazing coverage, and that was not a touchdown. All right. Anything else you want to talk about on the defense? Also,
Yeah.
I guess this is a special teams thing. The lining up for the punt.
Well,
We'll talk about that with
that'll be
special
stuff.
teams.
But
Okay.
defense, Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, two of the best interior defensive linemen in the country.
Yes.
Josiah Stewart, great edge rusher. Have some good linebackers with Hausman. And I get that people get tired and they need to be rotated in and out. But if it's the same almost every time, where Kenneth Grant's in once, Mason Graham's in once, and they're only in together on third down, or at least it's so frequently that that's the case, that I kind of notice it, and my friends sitting next to me kind of notice it. Well, all the other coaches who are getting paid millions of dollars to play you, they notice it
Definitely
too.
notice it,
And they
yeah.
take advantage of it. Oregon's good, like you said. Our defense, I think, got a little tired. I think at the end of the day, they played well. Oregon scored with 25 seconds left to go in the game to make it 38. Holding that team, that's a garbage time touchdown, kind of. You know, they drove down the field for 6 minutes trying to waste the clock away. It was very effective. They didn't need to score. Hopefully it's something Michigan remembers. But I'm going to call that a garbage time one at 25 seconds left to go. To hold the number one team in the country to 31 points for the vast majority of the game.
With two of our best defensive players out, you're right.
Not too bad,
You know?
especially when you consider how inept the offense was.
Right.
If we lost the time of possession battle by over 5 minutes, if we're more efficient on offense
And don't do trick plays at the
and actually
goal line.
sustain some drives there again.
Yeah.
First 6 drives, only one went over 30 yards.
Yeah.
It's tough for the defense. I think they did fairly well. Still some confusion on some of those calls that Wink does, but
Well,
what can I say?
Again, we're getting back to the same theme. You could see a path here for this Michigan team to have been much, much closer or even win. You really could see that because the defense had some amazing series. But it just... Okay, let's go to special teams. Explain to me why this person can't line up where he lined up, because he sure was getting yelled at on the sideline. But again, it comes down to coaching.
You can't line up over the center over the long snapper. You can't do it because it's a safety thing and everything else. I know that, and I don't play football. Dan Lanning is a good coach. Oregon runs a lot of different formations. You know, they did a great job knowing the rules and taking advantage of them against Ohio State earlier in the year. And, of course, the NCAA changed that rule pretty quickly. So they were running a unique formation. And our guys lined up wrong. And somehow we're lined up over the center. And it's great to yell at them on the sidelines, but it's 4th and 4. Yeah. Michigan has just scored. Michigan had scored. The momentum had kind of shifted. The second half, we stopped them. We got the ball. We scored. We're stopping them again. Now, if we can get the ball back, we can tie this thing up, get it to a one-score game. I don't remember exactly what the score was. I was drinking a lot of bourbon. But it's 4th and 4. We held them. We did a great job. Kudos to the defense. We have a 5-yard penalty because we line up dumb and the coach doesn't call a timeout and doesn't recognize it. Recognized enough to chew them out on the sidelines, but didn't recognize enough during the game. There's coaches in the booth. There's people in the stands yelling and screaming what's going on.
Yeah.
How did the coaches not see it? During that drive, we had to call a timeout because we had 10 men on the field. And then a couple plays later, we got a penalty for 12 men on the field.
Right.
So, hello, once again.
Yeah, we're getting to it.
Coaching
we're getting
staff.
To it. We're getting to it.
How do you do that?
Let's talk about kicking and punting.
Punting did well.
And
Pinned him back.
I saw Doman out there celebrating his punts. So
the kicking was. I'll say it was good. It wasn't 25-yard shanks. It was probably one of our better special teams games when it comes to punting punting, kicking, we didn't really have any problems. So that was great.
Okay, let's go to what we've all been dreading. I don't know if this is an angry pickle, but this is what AI created. And I want to read this disclaimer here. When I created this AI cartoon image, they put a couple numbers on this angry fan, and I just want to say those numbers do not coordinate with anything. This is what the AI generated cartoon image put on there, so this does not represent anger with any Michigan player whatsoever. It's just, I thought the angry pickle was a good representation, and I am sorry to whoever players those numbers are. They don't coincide with you as a player or a person at all, because we are very frustrated, angry, fed up with the coaching staff. Yes, I know this is a refrain that we kind of hit every week, but we have regressed from last week. From 7 days ago, they seem to have forgotten all of the things that made us successful against Michigan State, and it was just one blooper after another.
I don't even know what to say at this point. When your head coach says, we've got to find a way, we're gonna challenge the coaching staff. Hello, it's 9 games into this. The coaching staff should have been challenged during spring ball and fall ball and every week. The details matter. That's probably the largest thing we lost with Jim Harbaugh leaving. Besides the quirkiness and the enthusiasm unknown to mankind and that mentality, it's the details. The details matter. You take care of the little things, the big things don't present themselves. Look at what he's doing out in Los Angeles. Already ahead of pace what everybody thought he was going to do. 2 losers on the coaching staff this week. Kirk Campbell, offensive coordinator. We already talked about it. First 6 drives, only 1 went over 30 yards and 1 had a touchdown. First play on each of those drives I mentioned already. Combined, picked up 1 yard. We're constantly behind the sticks. 4 punts in the first 5 drives. 3 of those drives, 3 and out. And we talk about the defense getting tired. Those things, that's what causes that. And I already mentioned the worst time. Whatever we were trying to outsmart everybody in the country on that dumb play on 4th and 5. Get your touchdown. Make it a 1-score game. Make it a little closer.
And goal
it's 4th and 5 from the 10. So we could have gotten even a first down.
And we did.
It was just stupid.
Yeah. And Kirk Campbell notched up a little bit last week. He came, he was on the sidelines.
Notched way down this time.
But he notched right back down and maybe even below where he was, which is hard to imagine. But he's got to get out of here. If your calculations are right and they're not going to be able to fire Sharon Moore for whatever reason that is.
Michigan is not firing him in the first year. It's not going to happen.
They at least have to ask Kirk Campbell to move on somewhere else, because I don't think that this is going to work.
Well, I hope. I think Sharon Moore is a good person. I think he has the potential to be a decent coach. I hope this is a situation where Harbaugh left late, took a lot of people with him, and Sharon Moore was scrambling to assemble a staff. And he did what he had to do to get it, because at that point in time, most coaching staffs are pretty well set. So maybe there wasn't a whole lot on the shelf to pick from. I would certainly expect significant coaching movement in the offseason. And if we don't see that, buckle up, as Wink likes to put on Twitter. Buckle up, because it's going to be a long ride.
Well, one of the things I would like to see, because everyone is constantly commenting this year about how, this was a rushed process and maybe Sharon had to go out and get anybody and this is that and that is that. If you are a respected coach in any level of football, college, high school, NFL, I don't care what level that is, you have made connections, you have made friends, and you have people who really want to work with you, work for you, think that you're doing, a great job throughout your career. So let's hope Sharon Moore has the list of people that at the time he was making some choices had already signed contracts elsewhere or who were not willing to move, that he can call in this offseason, that he has known for years and that have known him, and that will say, oh yeah, I'll leave wherever they are. I'll leave XYZ school and I'll come and work with you at Michigan. Because building a group of coaches that you trust, you don't have to be lifelong friends with all of the people on your coaching staff. It's probably better actually that you're not, but having the few key people that you have trusted and will trust going forward, that have proven that they can do the job, is key for any successful coach.
So I'm going to give Moore a little bit of a hard time on a thing as well. So you already mentioned the touchdown, Oregon's first touchdown. That should have been a touchdown. I give him a pass on that because he can't challenge that because all scoring plays are already reviewed. That's on the Big Ten.
Oh, we're getting to the challenge.
And that's wrong. However, the announcers were apoplectic about rules and knowing them. So Colson Loveland makes a catch on the sidelines, gets a foot down, but he doesn't maintain control of the ball to the ground. It's not a catch. Everybody knew it. I'm standing up in the stands, and everybody's cheering it's a catch. We look up, and we're watching the replay, and we see the ball come out. And the first thing myself and the two guys sitting with us were like, that's just not a catch. And so they call it incomplete.
Which is the right call.
Which was the right call. We're like, yeah, that's not a catch. And then Coach Moore, it's his challenge flag. He challenged the play. And the announcers were like, how do you do that? You don't even know the rule.
You're going to lose
You're going to lose a timeout, which ended up not mattering. But
it could have.
What are you trying to do there? Are you trying to get the momentum? If you're the head coach and you didn't see it yourself, who the heck on your staff told you to throw that flag?
Yeah. Yes. And that's why I think he needs to have coaches around him that he trusts, that are capable, competent, and can tell him what is going on, what he should be doing. He can't do everything, but boy, in some parts of this game, it looked like nobody could do anything on our coaching staff. And to have, again, I've said this before and I'll say it again, to have an announcing crew speak poorly of any head coach, because they
Michigan head coach.
They do not go in on coaches that they quote unquote like work with every week and cover games and things like that. You rarely hear an announcing crew trying to go in on any coaching staff. You won't really hear it. You know, this is not the first time that people up in the booth have been scratching their heads watching the game just like the rest of us are and going, what is happening on the Michigan coaching sideline, on the Michigan sideline? Anyway, anything else you want to say before our blood pressure gets too high?
No, it's already too high.
All right. Final thoughts on Oregon. Hats off to you. I would be surprised if they are not a very high seed, if not the number one seed in however this college playoff system is going to work. And they are my favorites of all the teams that I have watched this year. They are absolutely my favorites to win it all. They looked great. And again, their quarterback's ability to shake off and shrug off any mishap, and they had mishaps during this game, get his team together and lead them down the field with seemingly precise passes. All kinds of things were going on in that Oregon offense, and they just looked great. The defense did what they had to do. They were extremely capable, more than capable as well. So hats off to you, Oregon. Anything you want to say before we move on?
Yeah, I'm just going to give you one last thought on the coaching staff. I referenced Scott Bell earlier about first downs and what do we do and how predictable the Michigan coaching staff is. So he posted at Scott Bell 021 on Twitter. If you followed during the Oregon game, I was complaining about Michigan's predictable, quote, throw an incompletion on first down, comma, follow it up with a run on second and 10, unquote, formula. So he took a deep dive to see just how common it was. The verdict, 16 straight runs in that situation. So 16 first downs where we throw an incompletion on first down, we follow it up with a run on second and 10. 16 straight times.
We have got to do better.
That's so predictable. So no wonder we're getting a whole whopping yard on second down run.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We've got to do better.
You asked for final thoughts on Oregon.
Yes.
Good team. They can beat anybody in the country. I think, if they had to play Ohio State again, it would be a battle again. Georgia could give them a battle. There's a few teams that could really hang with them. But if I was a betting man, which thankfully I'm not, I would probably bet on them taking it the whole way. But there again, any given Saturday or any given Sunday, whatever the saying is, that's why they play the game.
Yeah. All right. Speaking about moving on,
Oh, God.
Indiana.
Oh, God.
Now, in a normal Big Ten, and who knows what normal is anymore, but in Big Ten years of the past, I will say, not very many Michigan fans would be concerned at all with our team traveling to Bloomington, Indiana. Many of them might just watch casually or catch the replay or just put it already in the win column because for years and years and years, Indiana football has not really been anything to write home about. Not this year.
Well, yes.
They look
This would
great.
normally be a guaranteed win. Undefeated Indiana, 9-0, is seeking their third, and actually their second non-COVID win over Michigan since 1967. Yeah, that was before I was born, and I'm old.
Wow.
In 87, Indiana beat Michigan 14-10, and in 2020, Indiana beat Michigan 37-21.
Wow.
They're going for their third win. Indiana's favored for the first time since 1968.
And they should be. They look
Indiana
great.
has never been less than a 7-point underdog since 95.
Okay,
And
but-
we're a 14.5-point underdog.
Talking about them being favored, they should be. They have played a robust schedule, shall we say, and they have stepped up to the plate. Now, not as robust as Michigan's schedule, but they have done what they needed to do this year. They are undefeated. They look great, and it is going to be a battle.
And they have a good coaching staff. Gary Cignetti certainly isn't Jim Harbaugh, but there's a lot of similarities there. The attention to detail, the son of a coach, the belief that he has going on in that program. There's a lot of parallels.
Yeah. And here
Maybe we will go into Indiana and we will do what Michigan does, and we will beat them. I'll believe when I see it.
if we don't, we will not have one road win this year unless we beat the Buckeyes in the final regular season game. This could be a year where Michigan does not get a road win. So let's hope that we get one this week. Here we see the beautiful campus, actually, in Bloomington, Indiana. If you've never been, it is known for its feature of Indiana limestone, and over 100 buildings are made of limestone. On that campus, it is very, very large, from my recollection, but also very beautiful. Well, closing, we did not have the greatest of weeks, but hopefully we are a good enough team to go into Indiana and beat them. So let's hope that we can do that. It sounds like we are the underdog, but that's not a terrible thing to be, especially because we know we have a lot of talent on this team. So let's go, Michigan. Let's do it. Let's beat the Hoosiers. I don't know. What else do you want to say, dear? Anything? Fingers crossed, right?
Always.
Right.
Always.
All right, everyone. Hope you have a good weekend. We're going to come to you next week with our review of Michigan versus Indiana. Hopefully it will be a happy one. And until that time, go blue.
Leads the team so grand. Woodson's magic in the stands. Robinson running free so bold. Michigan blue and Maize untold. Brady's passes tearing through. Wheatley's stride so fast and true. Samer's still catching every flight. Michigan fights with all its might. We are victors of Michigan. Raise the banner high again. For us all, the Akabutuka never falls. Hero strength on battlefield, Ford's legacy forever sealed. We stand tall and proud and cheer for the Wolverines we hold dear. Oh, Michigan, where heroes rise beneath the blue victorious skies. Every game they fight so true. Legends born of maize and blue. Marching forward, never yield. In the big house we reveal. Spirit fierce and heart so strong. In this anthem we belong.